The goal. Shoulders so wide that when you walk into the room, they enter 5 seconds before you do. I used to lift for athletics. I used to play volleyball. And it left me with big ass legs, tiny upper body, and crippling insecurity in the locker room. The type where you suck in your gut so you look like you're leaner, especially around the boys, you know what I'm saying? For a decade, I did random exercises to try and grow my shoulders so I could look wider without feeling like so chubby, you know? But I never actually made real consistent progress until my last bulk, where I gained over 2 inches of width around my shoulders. According to Google, the average man's shoulder size is about 16 inches from end to end. Now, my shoulders are about 20 inches. In this video, I'm gonna show you the 5 ways I changed up how I lifted to actually target and grow my shoulders. And at the end, I'll share with you the exercises that hit my front, side, and rear delts the best and give me the best pump. A dedicated shoulder day. The first pro is that it gives you time to learn what the best exercise for you is. Every day that you have a shoulder day, you can try out different front delt or side delt movements to figure out what stimulates the best growth and the best pump for you. And if you only had to work out your shoulders 1 day a week, then that would hit your minimum to actually grow your muscles to trigger hypertrophy. According to recent research, it's about 4 to 6 sets per week per muscle that will actually trigger growth. Super easy for beginners. But the main con is if you only worked out your shoulders once a week, you are kind of leaving some gains on the table because your muscles can typically recover within 48 hours. So you could work out again, but we'll get to that later. The second thing I changed was I actually selected exercises that challenged each muscle in the stretched position. It gets you more stimulation within the muscle because you actually stretch it. So if you're working your rear delts, right, you can actually stretch all the way here, and that'll trigger your rear delt growth. A lot of machines only start here and then you're doing this. Yeah, no wonder they're not growing. And it lets you hit the exact muscle you want to. By focusing on the stretch position, you're not like doing some compound movement where you're like, does this kind of hit that? I think it does. But no, like when you're in that stretch position, you're like, oh yeah, I'm working my rear delts right now. I can feel it. And by targeting each muscle independently, you can ensure that you're actually gaining size and mass because you're stimulating each part of the muscle. You're not just hitting just the front delts because you did incline bench. You're actually hitting the side and the rear delts so you can actually develop that full kind of bulky look. Boulder shoulder, the Death Star delt look. Biggest con with this though is you can't ego lift. You can't be in here being like, with the lateral raises, being like, because it just doesn't really do a whole lot for you in my experience. I haven't made a lot of gains with that. I lowered the weight, but I upped the sets and the reps I did for my shoulders. Because when your muscle's fully stretched out, that's when it's at its most exposed, vulnerable, but also its weakest. And that's why in a lot of lifts, people don't do a full extension down, like if it's a bench press, or they like doing the side lateral raises because from here it's like hard, but like down here it's easy. So they can grab those 25s, those 30s and go, but they can't get it all the way up, you know? So by lowering the weight, it actually keeps tension on the muscle and you can focus and isolate that muscle better than if you use too heavy weight and maybe a different muscle might take over on the movement. It actually allows you to slowly progress in weight over time. So you can add a couple pounds here and there. So you're not like just trying to have some other muscle take over. For example, if you're doing rear delt stuff, if you use too heavy weight, your back is going to trigger and it's actually going to take over for you. And that's not what we want. We want to train the muscle we're trying to train and grow that specifically. Otherwise, what's the point? The main con I've seen with this type of training though, is that it could take longer to actually do the full workout. Because if you're adding more sets and reps, you might need to rest in between, right? So it can add some extra time, especially if you're doing like one-armed movements, which I do a lot in my shoulder training. But that's why I like having the dedicated shoulder day because I actually have the time to do it. I go in there and I'm like, I'm here to annihilate my shoulders. Today's goal, shoulder growth. That's all I'm trying to do. And so as I started doing these shoulder days, I started adding in a second shoulder workout per week. So the main pro is that you just get more growth in less time because your muscle is able to recover within 48 hours. And instead of hitting it once per week, now you're hitting it twice, maybe even 3 times a week. Now, I wouldn't recommend doing this like right off the hop, but make sure you get the right exercises and you start progressing in those first, and then you can add in a second or third kind of shoulder workout. But if you're really trying to grow your shoulders, I would do this at the beginning of any workout that you're gonna be doing. You need the energy to do it. If you're just throwing in shoulders at the end of a workout and you're like, I really want huge shoulders, but then you put it last on your priority list, what are you doing? Just grow the shoulders first, then do the accessory movements you want to do. Because really we can only target growth in a few muscles at a time, unless you're a super new beginner. And if you can focus all your energy and recovery in certain muscles, that's what I found has gotten me the best results. And the other con to adding additional shoulder days is like, you better make sure that your recovery is on point. You better be eating enough, getting your protein in, and sleeping enough. And if you do all this for the next 30 days and you're like, man, I do not have any growth, I don't get any good pumps, make sure you're actually using weight that challenges you. I like starting out with lightweight, but I'm trying to do about 15 to 20 reps per set. And if I'm doing side lateral raises, sometimes I'll do 4 or 5 sets because the shoulders can take a lot of stimulus. So finally, after trying all these people's workouts, these are the favorite movements that I have. First, I like to start my shoulder days with side delts. So I actually like Jeff Nippert's workout where you lean on a bench and then you're raising your one arm up. So this workout, I find it just the best because now I'm actually keeping tension on the muscle the whole way through the range of motion, and I can actually slowly progress the weight easily. I went from trying to do standing lateral raises with 25 or 30 pounds to using literally an 8-pound little dumbbell to do it. But my second favorite for side delts is Dr. Mike Israetel's full ROM lateral raise. It is a standing raise, but you go all the way up and then you drop it back down, and you really control it on the way down. So I like doing Jeff Nippert's one first, which really focuses on the stretch portion of that muscle, and then I may finish it off with that full ROM lateral raise. And I mean, I've flirted with some cables, and sometimes that's fun, but don't overdo it with the weight. I literally tweaked my shoulder by like doing too much weight of it in front of me. You can either do it in front or behind the back, but like if you just keep it light, right? We're not trying to like stack weight and just go, it's a really vulnerable position. You don't want to tweak your shoulder because that could throw you off, and it stopped me from training for like 2 weeks on my shoulders. Next, the rear delts. I like grabbing a cable, extending my arm and pulling it all the way down. I find I feel that so much just right in here. Like when I do that, I just feel so pumped, and I just feel like I'm massive. It's amazing. But I also really like using the reverse pec deck setting, but instead of facing it head on and doing this, I'll actually turn in the bench and then go like this and do it that way. I don't like that one as much at my gym just because the arm, I can't like move it all the way back because my arm's too long for it. But I can get a good contraction like from here to here basically, and that feels really good also. And last, for the front delts. After reviewing so many workouts and trying so many things for myself, I found for front delts, by doing incline bench, I do get a lot of stimulus in that front delt. So I like to finish off my shoulder days usually with a shoulder press. Every couple weeks I'll throw in basically a behind the back like cable where I'll pull my arm up from there. But I don't like doing that one too much because I feel like my front delts between my chest workouts and my shoulder workouts, I get enough stimulus on that front delt. I hope that was helpful. If you have any questions for me, we're opening up a group called Future Jacked Grandpas. I'll put the link in the first comment below where you can come in, ask questions, and I even have a full kind of guide on how I went from barely lifting at all to where I am now. And it's kind of like a game. I give you quests. There's quest givers. It's really fun. But that'll be opening up December 15th. So if you go ahead and click the link, request to join, fill out the answers, and then December 15th, we launch, and I can't wait to see you there. Now let's go and get these shoulder gains. Come on, my man. Peace.